What is up, Living Death fans? Yes, all 10 of you Living Death fans out there, this is your moment. So listen up. Somebody's actually talking about your favorite band. So, Living Death. I have a funny relationship with this band. I kind of like them, kind of love them sometimes, and at the same time, I kind of don't think they're very good. I told you it was a funny relationship. Okay, let's talk about what is Living Death. So supposedly, okay, well, on my Living Death CD, I remember opening up the booklets and reading. It said that they were like, I guess, the first German speed metal band, according to that, or one of the first. I don't know what the legitimacy of that is, but, you know, cool. I mean, that's actually a pretty big deal, if that's true. But, so Living Death is, they kind of started off as speed metal, then ventured into thrash. You could even almost say they even tried to venture into the realms of death metal in a sense. I wouldn't say they were ever death metal, but they got pretty extreme there at times. But the earlier sound, I would say, has a lot more like Judas Priest in it, maybe some Accept. And Living Death as a band is actually they're pretty talented musically. Musicianship is pretty good. But they got one key thing that, love or hate, it's their singer, Thorsten Bergman, aka Toto. I don't know how he got that nickname, but anyway, he can't really sing. Let's just say that he's more of a screamer. Like, that's really what he's the best at, is just screaming. He doesn't really have that good of a voice, and sometimes he works pretty well, and sometimes God help him. Okay, so I'm going to do a ranking, a different kind of ranking, not like a tier ranking, but more of just like my least favorite to favorite. So they got 5 albums. Okay, so my least favorite. This is hard because, and another thing, I'm going to say something else about Living Death. They were one of the most unfortunate bands in the history of bands because it just seems like they never could get their ducks in a row, or the stars or the moons just never aligned just right for them for one album to just have. They don't have one masterpiece. They've come so close at times. They've got hints of perfection, but they just can't seem to get it there. They had 5 tries and never did quite hit the mark. But they come close, I'll be honest. But okay, my least favorite, number 5, and it's their latest, their last album they ever did. I think it came out in '90 or early '90s. Killing in Action. Funny enough, this is the only album that does not feature Toto. It features, what was the guy's name? Like Gerald Fellon or something. I don't know. I might have said that wrong. I just looked it up before I did this video and I already forgot. So, you know, like, so they had this singer that's not really that good, and then I guess he left, and, you know, they could have finally had a chance they could have got anybody, you know, it could, you know, tried out anybody. But no, they find a guy that somehow in this world, there was another guy that sounds just like Thorsten Bergman. And that's what they went with. I mean, I guess I can understand if you had a great singer, like if you were, you know, okay, like Judas Priest, you know, you lose Halford for a little bit. What do? You find somebody that sounds like Halford. You got Ripper Owens. Makes sense. No, like they pretty much went from like going from like the worst singer to let's do more of that. So yeah, this guy, okay, the music on Killing in Action is really all over the place, man. It is really neurotic in nature. It's just it's almost annoying to listen to. And don't get me wrong, I love thrash, I love chaotic thrash, but this album just almost makes me just too jittery, and it makes me a little irritable to listen to it. There's some good riffs on there, but a lot of it's like the drums, the guitars, it's all just like blah. It just kind of like nothing just like sounds pleasant to me, and the singing is the worst. Sometimes this new guy sounds all right. Sometimes, like, listen to the song Hang 'Em High. Oh my god. Like, I understand metal's not supposed to sound pretty, especially like, you know, thrash metal, but this is not. How did this get out the studio without somebody saying, bro, like, what is this? Like, no, you got to redo this. No, they went with it. It's so, I don't know. It's kind of almost a techie, chaotic thrash sort of thing. I just, the production's okay. It's one of their better productions, but it just, I don't know. I just find it annoying. Next, let's move on. Number 4, Vengeance of Hell, their debut. Man, this album, actually, if you look through beneath all the problems, it's actually pretty good. Like, it could actually be up among some of my favorite songs of Living Death. But what's the problem? Well, first of all, the production is weird. I mean, not only does it sort of sound as bad as a demo, but it just sounds like, it just sounds disconnected from each other. Like, it just, like, all the it just doesn't make any sense. The bass is really loud, rumbly at times, to the point of being like, I almost have to turn it down because it's just like rumbling so much. And I don't know if this is just a remaster issue, because sometimes they like to crank bass in those remasters, because, you know, it's what it's all about, I guess, with people, bass. But I don't know. It's just too bassy. The guitars, between the guitars and the bass and the drums, it doesn't feel like it's glued together very well. It's not tight. It's just like, I don't know. It just feels real loose. Most of it's fairly clear, and you can kind of hear most of it sonically, but it's not the clearest I've ever heard. But the other big problem is Toto himself, Thorsten Bergman, the singer. This is where he's trying to be more of a singer before he decided, let's just scream all the time, because God knows that's what he's best at. He's actually trying to sing here, and boy, it does not work. Not only does his voice just sound wimpy and weird, it just sounds awkward. It does not fit with the music. It's like the music sounds big, his voice sounds small. It just don't work. I don't know. But other than that, like, honestly, the songs are good. And even, like, another thing about the mixing, I know I'm going on and on. This is probably going to be a longer video than I just got so much to say about Living Death. But look at the song. I think it's called Nightlight or something, or I don't know. But it's kind of just a plain, like, Judas Priest type of song. And the verses, like, what is with the mixing here? He's so quiet. Me and my friend John, years ago, we used to listen to it and just laugh. We'd have to listen about it every time we hung out. And we'd be like, oh, there's the mouse part. We say that because he sounds like he's like a little mouse, like creeping through a door or something. Like, just so, he sounds so quiet. And then the verses come in, he's like super loud. And there's even this part where he's like, she came near and near. It just does like that, the super loud laugh. That for one thing, it's irritating and out of place. But they had decided to make that part louder than anything else. All right, so number 3 on my Living Death list is Protected from Reality. Man, this album, remember when I said that they had moments where I can actually even kind of love this band, and they had moments that were close to perfection. This is one of the albums I'm talking about. So this band pretty much like went from this typical speed metal Judas Priest sound, and then all of a sudden just blasted right into like super brutal thrash metal. Like, we're talking like Slayer here, you know, like I mean, this album is one of the darkest, most brutal, savage freaking thrash albums I've ever heard. Like, just, it's like, wow, these guys just did a 180 on this. And now, okay, I'm gonna tell you, these songs have got some of the best riffs, some of the best ideas, some of the best drumming parts that and even Thorsten Bergman, Toto, actually sounds really good on here. Like, this is where he shines. Just scream your lungs out. Don't even try to carry a tune. Just scream. And that's pretty much all he does on this. And you know what? It works. He actually sounds pretty cool, dare I say, even on this album. So, you know what? So why ain't this number one? Well, I'm going to tell you, I want it to be number one. Musically speaking, this is their best album. But unfortunately, it's marred by the worst production in their whole catalog. You heard that right. The absolute, and one of the worst productions I ever heard. It's a mess. It's a train wreck. So, you know, kind of like Vengeance of Hell, it's just so bassy that you just got to turn it down sometimes, because it's just, you're trying to get clarity and all you're getting is rumble, and it just doesn't. It's not very easy or fun to listen to. The guitars just sound puny and distant. You could barely hear really what's going on underneath just all that clutter of just horrible problem frequencies. Like, this album, man, it just needs cleaned up. Like, if someone could clean this up, this would be one of my most favorite albums of all time. I would listen to this album all the time. Like, this would be a go-to for me. But unfortunately, it's just too bad to listen to. I get it out every once in a while when I just got a wild hair to just like suck it up. You know, I'm in a certain mood. Well, I'm gonna put up with the bad to enjoy the good. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's like trying to get through like fruit or something, like a pineapple, on that hard exterior that you gotta like work your way into it's a lot of work just to get into that juicy pineapple in the middle. Or, you know, it's just I don't know. It's too bad when I gotta compare metal to fruit. But okay, so next I'm gonna number 2 here. Let me think. That would have to go to World's Neurosis. So this album kind of retains some of the heaviness and just downright thrashy vibe of Protected from Reality, but a little bit of a twist to this one. While I think I prefer the music on Protected from Reality, this one, I have to say, kind of like works more around like trying to write songs that are trying to be memorable. And sometimes that's by being, you know, using gang choruses, you know, shouts and stuff like that, or sometimes it's by literally being goofy. Like, this album has some goofy stuff to it. Isn't there a song on there called like The Testament of Mr. George or something? Something like that. I just remember the Mr. George part and being like, okay. But the album's heavy, it's thrashy, and there's something else here that I have to notice that, you know, judging by the other albums, you know, Toto usually has that high, screechy, raspy, scream, you know, that he pretty much does all the time. And on here, this is the first album where he doesn't do much of that at all. Only a couple little places does he even really do that. And it's just more for, more of a tool to, I don't know, for variation, I guess. But on here, he actually sings kind of in his regular voice. Kind of weird. Is it good? To be honest with you, he's a lot less grating probably on this album than he is on any of the other ones. But, you know, but depending on the album, I do kind of like his scream. But honestly, this voice kind of works on here. I mean, I don't know, like this album's really fun. I actually like it. The songs are kind of hard to this one kind of took me a little longer than other Living Death albums to kind of soak in, because it's so different and odd for a Living Death album. I mean, it's just kind of odd really in itself, just for a thrash album. But you know, I think there's one song, I mean, as far as like goofiness, there's like another song that's like something about like release your erection or something. I don't remember, something weird like that. It just, but I'll be honest, it's actually a pretty cool album, and that's why I put it second. The production here isn't nearly as great as like I would like, but it's not one of the worst productions. It's just a little bit messy, kind of hard to differentiate things like super duper clearly, but it's not horrible. It's doable, let's just say that. And first, well, y'all know what it is if you know Living Death, but Metal Revolution. So this album is just kind of like the least what you want to call it, just the least irritating, the the least amount of faults. It's not necessarily the very best musically, but it's very good and solid musically. It's one of the best musically. The production actually makes sense. And what makes no sense to me, though, is that it's their second album. So they go from Vengeance of Hell, horrible production, to Metal Revolution, good production. I mean, not amazing, but good production, to Protected from Reality, worst production of all time almost. Like, how does this happen? Like, I do not get it. But if all the albums could just have a production like Metal Revolution, like, they could have been much better as a band. Like, they probably would get more attention. I'd probably listen to them more. But yeah, well, Metal Revolution itself is really, you could really hear the Judas Priest and The Accept. Even, you know, Thorsten Bergman, you know, his voice even kind of, it's almost like he's trying to mimic Udo Dirkschneider just a hair. Now, you know, they're both German bands, so I can kind of see how there'd be an influence there. But, you know, not nearly as good as Udo, though. Udo's still, like, way better. But, you know, Toto's voice here doesn't offend too bad. It's not the best voice I ever heard, but it works. It's mainly his screaming. He's kind of doing a mix of trying to scream and sing. For better or for worse, it's not terrible. At least it works. You know, what else? So the songs, there's actually quite a bit of variety here. While I say most of it's kind of speed metal, there's a little bit of trying to be melodic here. Like, some of the songs are actually memorable. Like, I can actually remember a lot of the parts to these songs. That's pretty cool. And Living Death, for the most part, never really had an issue with being memorable. It's just usually the approach, you know, or the way it's just the way it's fleshed out is usually the problem. But nah, here it's pretty good. There's some songs that are slower, faster, some songs that are trying to be creepy, some songs that are even trying to be a tad epic. There's some traditional metal. There's maybe even a little bit of an Accept type of, like, there's at least one song like Rulers Must Come is kind of accept like in a way. Songs like Grip in the Heart is just kind of like Judas Priest, but a little faster. I don't know. I think it's a cool album. Again, I would say Protected from Reality, a better album, even better musically. But, you know, if I had to judge these albums by the music and not just it all around, you know, like rating, like this list would look different. But I have to, you know, I have to consider production, because with this band, oh, it matters. Vocals, oh, it matters. You know, like these all have to factor in with the music quality itself, because there's just so many problems and so many faults with this band. So yeah, and you know, I do listen to Living Death sometimes, just not a lot. You know, and even look at their album covers, man. Like, I didn't bring the CDs with me. Usually if I have more than like 3 CDs, I don't take them with me to do the videos. But their album covers are actually pretty cool. Like, all of them. Like, all of them are really, really cool looking. And I remember before I even knew what the band sounded like, I'd look at the covers and think, oh man, I bet that band is awesome. You know, I bet they're like the German Slayer or something. Like, yes and no. I wouldn't say they're Slayer in the type of way of like Exhumer is like Slayer, but I don't know. But you know, that's my Living Death. I just had a lot to say, and the only reason why I did this video is I just recently got Killing in Action. I found it on eBay. I'm like, wow, it was one available for a decent price, so I bought it. So, and now I was a little disappointed. I kind of was thinking it was going to be better, but meh, I don't know. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you like this video, hit like, subscribe, whatever. I'll be here.